Hi, Bob Bartlett here with the Ubuntu Fly Anglers Network and iFishiBelong. And this is our podcast series on the reel, and I am your host. This conversation was recorded in 2024 on Instagram, but way too important to only live there. So we have moved this episode and others like it to our podcast. In this episode, I sit down with good friend, Minnesota fly fishing guide, Scot Simmons, a.k.a. Tribe Simmons. At the time, Scott served on the board of directors for the Twin Cities chapter of Trout Unlimited, and he was founding member of the Ubuntu Fly Anglers Network. In this episode, Scott shares his passion for diversifying the great outdoors, adding more black and brown folks to fly angling and in outdoor spaces. He also shares his passion for living what he called a bug's life, that is, living with intentionality and purpose. Little did we know at the time of this conversation that 5 months later he would be diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and 6 months afterwards would pass away. Please join us for this episode of On the Reel with Scot Simmons. So without further ado, I have my good buddy here, Scot Simmons. Let me introduce him to you real quick, a couple words, and then I'm going to start asking them a few questions. So Scott lives with his young family in the Twin Cities area, Bloomington. I know he works in a fly shop. He guides fly fishing trips. He takes youngsters from the city out camping on the weekends. Posted a really nice video recently that was fun to watch of him on the trail with some youngsters. He's on the leadership team of the Twin Cities chapter of Trout Unlimited. I believe you still are on the board there. He's also on the leadership team of the Ubuntu Fly Anglers Network. So how about that? So with all of that now said, Scott, how are you? And welcome to the show.
Hey, man, I'm doing good. How have you been?
I've been fine, except for this daggum heat.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I
Scott, how
miss
do you
chatting with you.
say again?
I said I miss chatting with you, brother.
I know. We do that occasionally, and I really appreciate the time. And I know how time flies when we're on the show because we like to visit, which is good.
Yeah.
So Scott, how do you prefer to people to know you, and anything about you that we should know right off the bat here?
Well, just that my name is Scot Simmons. Pronouns are his, him, and what, Mr. or Sir?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
Resident of Bloomington, Minnesota, on Dakota tribe land. And I've been a resident of Minnesota since I was 3, and I'm 55 now. And I have been an avid fisherman ever since I was probably, I don't know, 10, just always getting out on the water and fishing. And it's kind of like, it's my therapy. I love it.
Yeah.
I love being outdoors and getting engaged with people and just experiencing fishing on a different level with the fly rod. Yeah.
Right. I have to ask you a question. So what is behind Tribe Simmons?
That just came from me considering the fact that it takes a village to raise a family sometimes, and being from black culture, my roots are in Nigeria. Tribes there are abundant, and I just thought it fit. I wanted to have at least my last name, family last name on there, and I figured I'd just sum it all up with tribe.
That makes perfect sense, bro. I had no idea, so I just had to ask you about that. So you mentioned that you started out just angling with family members.
Oh yeah.
Subsistence fishing, was that the way it started for you? And
Yeah.
how did that progress?
Yeah, banging the banks, meaning not actually from a boat, but on a bucket or a chair, and fishing some of these local channels. For instance, the Narrows in Lake Minnetonka was one of the key places that we went to chasing crappies. Another local lake that I spend a lot of time at now, currently showing my son around, is Lake Nokomis. Um, and that's good fishery. It's really close to the cities, near the airport, and just offers a lot of water recreation opportunities.
So you started out like many of us did, right, with some little Zepco or open face thing with a
Sure.
bail on it,
Yeah.
throwing worms and spinners and such. And how did that all evolve to where you are now with fly angling? How did that happen?
Um, it was just from my experience hanging out with my pops a lot. Um,
Yeah.
I loved being on the water with him and fishing with him. It was always kind of a little bit of a competitive thing between the two of us. Um,
Yeah, I know those
you know,
days.
you hook a fish and you look down the bank at your pops and you're like, uh-huh. you know. But
Yeah.
he had been doing some fly fishing for quite some time before I got involved in it, and we had this photo of him holding a Chinook salmon
Mm.
down in our basement, and I believe it was one of the Michigan tributaries, and I was just always like wowed by it because it was so massive. I mean, the fish looked like it was 40, pushing 40, maybe 50 inches in its size, but and the girth on it was just like wow. So I began to ask a little bit more about what his trips were like up there in the Lake Superior area and on the Brule in Wisconsin, and he finally took me up there and we hit a tributary in Duluth called the Knife River, and I had a hell of an experience for my first time wading, as I lost my footing and started floating down the river, um, and I was pretty freaked out, you know. And fortunately, my father was down there, and he swept me up, grabbed me by my arm, and pulled me to safety. But that was my first experience. Got skunked, but it was quite fun. Um, you know, and it was like, I think it was 1998. I went up again with him and we fished the Brule, and that was the first time that I touched a steelhead, and it was on briefly, but I felt the power and that transfer, that energy from fish through line, through the rod to my hand, and was just like, it was stunning to experience that. And so I got back to the Twin Cities, and he started to show me some of the local trout streams, Wisconsin and in Minnesota, and I just started to seek it out, and on my own and try to figure it all out. I was just so like just thrilled of fishing small bodies of water where you're actually in the water, in the environment with them, and I just felt that kind of connection, and so yeah, it just continued to bring me right back.
Wow, that so much of that sounds familiar. My dad, to the day he died, would take great delight in talking to people about how I never pass a body of water without falling in. We If we go, we'd spend the weekend, and he always made sure I had extra clothes, but because he knew that I was going to end up floating down the river, just like what you said, that.
Mhm. Yeah.
But those memories, boy, they're very vivid, right? And it's
Hmm.
what caused us to fall in love with this thing. So then you evolved into into a hobby fly angler, let's say. But now, bro, you're a guide. So what was that like? What drove you
Yeah,
to the guide side of things?
just I mean, again, it just my love for it, my love for just being on the water, fishing, sharing my knowledge, occasionally trying to demonstrate my skill level. Uh, and it's quite fun to put people on fish and to be able to sit and observe how they respond to it, and the fun, the joy that it brings them. And I'm often out on the water with fathers and sons, and so that's a neat aspect of it as well. But I just really I enjoy engaging with people that are similar like myself and love the outdoors and love fishing.
Yeah, I always try to follow you and everything that gets posted about you. And I know Trout Unlimited did a nice series on you recently, and you were out with your son. That was very, very touching, very meaningful to me, and it brought back lots of fond memories of, again, you know, me with my father when you're out there with your son, and the delight you took in him catching the fish. I remember those. I remember those days, man, and it's
Yeah,
and then that competition piece. We should talk about that again sometime because my dad and I, yeah, we would get on it, and he used to think I was 6 feet. He was 6 feet tall, so he'd get in the river and take off, right? And I'm just a little guy, and I'm climbing over rocks and down in holes and trying to keep up with him. And I swear he never looked back, but that was just me thinking that because I'm sure he did. But then as I got older, I remember the first time he let me lead on a river, and I'm like, wow, that's amazing. So
yeah,
your videos and the pictures that you send, your videos of your son, and I noticed he had a new boat. He was out there on a
yeah,
lake. That
yeah,
lake you're talking about, that's an
yeah,
impressive little watercraft, man. I'd like to have one of those.
yeah, yeah. I'm trying to work out a deal with him that he's just going to share it. You know,
Uh,
share, share it with
but
Pop. You
the
know,
mistake you made was you gave it to him.
I know. I know. And I've got this trolling motor on the doggone thing now that I want to use on my flycraft. And all I hear him saying is, Dad, do you got my trolling motor? It's it's mine, mine, mine.
Oh boy, we create monsters, don't we?
Yes. Yes. But I
So
tell you, I'm living the best life right now. That's
right,
without a doubt.
right.
Um, Thoroughly thrilled with the position I've been able to put myself in, the collective group of people that are around me, supporting me, inspiring me, championing for me, means a lot, means a lot. I'll tell you a little story. I met this gentleman, local fly fisherman, Minnesota, and I just started watching him and seeing how he operated, and I saw that he was also engaged with, uh, involved in Trout Unlimited, Minnesota Trout Unlimited. And before we had met in person, I was shopping at Bob Mitchell's fly shop, who I guide for, and he happened to be in the store. And I tell you what, I got nervous as all heck. Um, and just kind of overwhelmed with, I've got some anxiety things, some social anxiety things, and whatnot. But he approached me and introduced himself. His name is Micah Kreider, and we spoke for a while. And I ended up getting out and fishing with the guy. But the biggest part of how he impacted my life is I saw him doing things that I was finding interesting, and being engaged in a uh, in community as well as an organization like Trout Unlimited. I thought that it was one of the neat things, and he seemed to be prideful in the work that he was doing, and so it inspired me to just do as much as I could with community and being engaged. And so it just led me to this position on the board with the Twin Cities Trout Unlimited chapter. I was referred by a female angler. Um, and just one thing has just kind of led to another. And it's kind of like all or nothing now. I need to be fully involved in as much as fly fishing and sales of fly fishing and partnership and mentoring as much as possible because it just fills my heart.
Wow, that's an awesome story, and it's so when we meet people in our lives that just come into our lives, right? That just turn out to be so important and transformative, right? You met that person just by chance, and the difference that it's made in your life. And so I have to tell you a similar story. So I'm a life member at TU, and I'm reading the magazine one day, leafing through it, and I come across this article. and, and I'm like, who is Scot Simmons? I mean, you came to me in a similar way. It wasn't in a fly shop, but it was in my downstairs as I'm reading the magazine. And it just so happens my godmother lives in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And I said, do you know? So anyhow, long story short, see, that's how things like this happen. And that's really the blessing of it, is for me as well. And it sounds like for you, is that people just enter our lives sometimes very randomly and end up changing our lives. So now
Yeah.
you're living the life of a guide, and you're out there doing your thing. So you mentioned to me when we talked last time, let's see, yeah, probably last time, that you had an idea about, well, it started out you were talking about bugs. I
Yeah.
remember you were talking about bugs
Yeah.
and living a bug's life and everything. And
Yeah.
then it evolved into living a purposeful life when last
Yeah.
time we talked. So, Scott, I need to turn this over to you, man. Elaborate on this. How did this whole thing evolve in you, this relationship with bugs and living a purposeful life? Tell us about
Well,
that, because I think it's awesome.
I think that, first off, it was just trying to get familiar with the doggone insects that are in these bodies of water, and understanding their stages and their life cycle. And then I started looking at the caddisfly, and the caddisfly is just one of those that has, I believe it's got 4 different life stages: egg to larvae, pupa to the adult stage. And all throughout all those stages, they're all meaningful stages where often they're a source of food for other animals, insects, dragonflies, trout, etc.
Mhm.
Meaningful,
Right.
it's kind of like that whole village it takes to raise one, and we all kind of, I feel like us as humans, us as citizens, should all bear a little bit of a responsibility to be there for other folks,
Mhm.
to help other folks, to teach, to be a source of food,
Mhm.
nourishment.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I find that, these bugs, they go through it, and then they mate. I mean, I think caddisflies can drop up to 800 doggone eggs, you know, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But I think it's clearly from the point that most of those are going to be devoured by other animals or other insects. And to be sure that the life of that caddisfly continues, they have such an abundance of of eggs in their hatches. Um, they're very short lived, um, and uh, and they accomplish a lot in their short lifespan.
Mhm.
And it's kind of like what I want to be sure to be doing going forward as I enter these last stages of my own life. Um, Meaningful work, rewarding work. Um, uh, yeah, I don't know really what else to really add to that.
Mhm.
Hopefully, that makes some sense to those watching and listening.
Well, it's deep. It's it's deep. And when you first brought it up, I'm thinking, okay, because I like to study bugs too. I can get a little nerdy when it comes to bugs and their life, and we also know that some bugs, their lifespan 24 hours, 48 hours. Other bugs live up to maybe a month, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they don't live very long. At least
No.
most uh,
Yeah.
that do that, and so they have a lot of. And I think I'm hearing you right that bugs have this program in them that says this is how much life you have, and these are the things you need to do
Yeah.
to live your best life. You're going to
Right.
go through these stages, and once you pop out of off the surface of the water, your clock's ticking.
Yeah. Better find that mate. Better start doing what you do.
You better get busy, huh? But and you know what? I was following you there, and yeah, I can relate to that. Matter of fact, my favorite bug is a caddis as well. Except those who know me know that I can count the days that I've ever fished with a dry fly in the past 15 years on one hand. I don't do that. But my favorite bug, because I'm a streamer guy, I'm a streamer junkie. But I know about bugs, and caddisflies were one of the first that I really got intrigued with because they get these big clouds on the river.
Yeah.
Uh, they're pretty amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like you and I have spoke before, we talk about, being intentional and
Yeah.
what we do, you know, and they show that clearly. They're very intentional with what they need to accomplish in their short lifespan.
Mm. Intentionality. Yeah, you and I have talked about that before. Uh, the the fact that we decided to do this crazy thing called the Ubuntu Fly Anglers Network, that came out of intention. Came out of
Hmm.
intention. It came out of like, I know you, and then I know Joe, Christopher, and I got connected with Ashley and so many others,
Yeah.
um, just by getting to know one person. And
Hmm.
and I still, one of my favorite pictures of you is the three of you, Joe, you and Ashley in the boat, and you holding the sandwich. I mean, that speaks a lot. But the reason I bring that up, and I know the rest of the people haven't maybe seen that picture, but I think it goes to what you're saying here. You say, leading a purposeful life. Those kind of gatherings, just although we'd love them to be regular occurrences, they're not, right? And they wouldn't happen at all unless we were intentional.
Right.
We make them we make them happen because they're important to us, right? I mean,
Yes. Yes.
I'm just feeling here. I
Yeah.
got I got you now.
Um,
Yeah.
and on the camp that I hosted, to have my brothers with me on that, was really special. You know, I'm proud of that work, and I just, I hope we can continue, um, between myself, Joe, and Ash, building this thing and kind of leaving a little bit of a legacy.
Well, you're already building a legacy. You're building a legacy within me because I'm inspired by you, bro, and I'm very sincere about that. You inspire me.
Thank
The
you.
work that you're doing. I mean, if you're on this side if you're just cresting the hill, I'm down here somewhere on my life cycle. I'm a little bit further down the hill. I'm a little bit further down river than you. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah,
no, really, the work that you're doing and the commitment you have to it, and this whole idea of living a purposeful life, Lord, if more of us really lived our lives that way, and I think you were genius in relating it to bugs.
yeah.
Still, it just makes me happy. Um, the stonefly is another one of those, right? Man, they get busy. They get off the water. They get in the brush. They're doing their egg thing. And they're
Yeah.
done. I mean, they're fish food, or there's some other kind of food. For,
Mhm.
as you said, you can always tell because the birds show up. Man, as soon
Yeah,
as that,
that's right.
as soon as
Yeah,
that salmon fly happens, the birds are keyed in, right? And next thing
yeah,
you know, you're going to have to fish that because the birds are keying in on them.
yeah.
Uh, I don't know whether you've ever fished that salmon fly hatch, especially in places like Montana. I mean, they're
No,
they're
no, I
they're
haven't. We don't have them here. We don't have that salmon fly hatch here in Minnesota. But I have used that pattern, and matter of fact, I caught one of my largest brown trout on that pattern, which I thought was pretty damn neat.
that. Anytime you catch a beautiful brown trout or any kind of species, it's damn neat. I feel you there.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
hopefully we'll have a chance to go out and chase some fish here in October.
that's
I'm
right.
looking forward to having you out here and hosting everybody, and that I'm just so excited about that. I can hardly stand it, and I think we'll have a good time. And we have a local river here, so we'll getting out on it. But again, part of our reason for being and main thing about this show is to make us visible and to put us out there so the world knows,
Yeah.
America knows
Yeah.
that we're trying to all live this purposeful life, and it just doesn't happen sometimes for some of us anyway, unless we're intentional, and
Yeah.
that's huge.
Yeah.
So any final thought or story here as our time is fleeting that you'd like to share with folks about your experience, either being a guide, being a dad?
Um, I just, for me personally, I just want to continue, being an example, um, a better example that I've ever been in my life of, how to help and lend a hand and bring, your fellow men and women up with you. You know, um, I think we've gotten into this kind of we're living in a society where everybody's just kind of got this going on, and we're not making an effort to see things from 30,000 feet and the big picture. We're all lucky to be on Earth together right now and sharing this time. So I just say that we all need to make the best of it, um, and do something for somebody else.
That's good. That's good stuff, man. So your advice is solid. I'm hearing you right. Your advice to live a purposeful, intentional life and help other people live their best lives as well. Uh, that's pretty cool, Scott. Well, I appreciate your time. I know you're incredibly busy, and the fact that you took time out to do this in your camper on your way to South Dakota to do some other family stuff is also a tribute. It shows where your priorities are for sure. Of course, I knew that before. I really enjoyed meeting you through this article. I think TU did a great job in the interview. I hope you liked what they had to say about who you are in your
Oh
life
yeah,
and what you're trying to do.
I tell you,
Um,
when you can have somebody speak of you in the way that you want to be, viewed, and it comes out kind of in alignment with the way that you feel about yourself, that's heartwarming. That's good stuff, man. Yeah, so I was very pleased with that.
I, I I would like to just end with a quote here of you saying, "I'm healing mentally and emotionally, and the crick has helped me grow and value things in a way that I had never done before." That idea of healing waters, I feel you. There's nothing
Yeah,
like it. Nothing like standing ankle deep in a creek or river, just being in awe of the experience, and especially to have someone along with us, like a son or buddies, that
yeah,
makes it even better.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
Scott, I appreciate you, man, and I love our conversations, the conversations we've had over time, and you have a lot of fans out there, a lot of people that believe in you and support you, and so I'm really looking forward to us being able to get together here in Spokane and push this Ubuntu agenda even further to the next evolution of it, right? Because
Yes,
the only way we know one another is
yeah,
through this medium, and so it'd be good to be in one spot.
yes, yeah. I agree. I tell you, I'm happy to be a part of a group, of a community that values a lot of the same things that I do. Being aligned with folks of your likeness is really, really cool. Because I tell you what, sometimes it's hard to just fit in as a brother within your own brothers.
Yeah, here,
I there was a time that I wasn't called nerdy, but I was certainly called some other things.
yeah,
you
we've
know,
all been there. We've all been
you
there.
know what I'm saying?
So,
It kind of made me change my approach a little bit, and it took me out of character. And so I'm glad to be living um, my authentic life and who I am and who God intended me to be. You know.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate what you have to share and your stories and so forth. I appreciate you as a person. So thank you for listening, everyone. You can also watch each episode on our YouTube channel. Follow us on Instagram at Ubuntu Fly Anglers on Instagram and UbuntuFlyAnglers.com on Facebook. You can also message me directly at UbuntuFlyAnglers@gmail.com. So thanks, everyone, for listening and watching. See you next time. Tight lines.